On July 20th, 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong became the first human to set foot on the moon. This momentous achievement marked a turning point in human history. It was a triumph of science, engineering, and the indomitable spirit of exploration. Yet, even as humanity celebrated this incredible feat, whispers of doubt began to emerge. Some people questioned the authenticity of the event. Could it be that the moon landing was an elaborate hoax, staged to win the space race against the Soviet Union? Conspiracy theorist, media, moon landing skepticism. While the vast majority of people accept the moon landing as fact, a persistent minority remains unconvinced. They point to perceived inconsistencies and anomalies in the photographic and video evidence. They question the technological capabilities of the time. Their doubts, fueled by mistrust and misinformation, have kept the moon landing conspiracy theories alive for over half a century. This essay delves into the reasons behind these enduring beliefs. We will examine the historical context, explore the evidence presented by conspiracy theorists, and provide scientific explanations that debunk these claims. Ultimately, we will see that the moon landing was not a hoax. It was a real event, independently verified, that stands as a testament to human ingenuity and our boundless capacity for discovery. To understand the origins of the moon landing hoax theories, we must first travel back to the tumultuous era of the Cold War. This period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union was marked by intense competition in various fields, including space exploration. The space race, as it came to be known, became a symbolic battleground for global supremacy. Historian. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth. This achievement sent shockwaves through the United States, which suddenly found itself lagging behind in the space race. Determined to reclaim its technological dominance, the US poured resources into its space program, culminating in President John F. Kennedy's bold declaration in 1961 to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the decade. This ambitious goal was set against a backdrop of deep mistrust and suspicion between the two superpowers. The Cold War fostered an atmosphere of secrecy and propaganda. It is within this context that the seeds of doubt about the moon landing were sown. Some people, already wary of government pronouncements, found it difficult to believe that the US could achieve such a technological feat, especially given its initial setbacks in the space race. As images and videos of the moon landing were beamed around the world, some viewers began to notice what they perceived as inconsistencies and anomalies. These observations, often taken out of context or based on a misunderstanding of the lunar environment, fueled the nascent conspiracy theorist. One of the most common points of contention was the American flag planted on the lunar surface. In photographs, the flag appears to wave as if caught in a breeze. However, the moon has no atmosphere to speak of, and therefore no wind. How could the flag be waving? Other anomalies included the lack of visible stars in the photographs, the parallel shadows cast by objects on the lunar surface, and the apparent ease with which the astronauts moved about in the moon's low gravity. These initial observations, though seemingly suspicious to some, had perfectly plausible scientific explanations. The flag's waving was due to the way it was mounted to a telescopic pole. The lack of stars in the photographs was a result of the camera's exposure settings, which were optimized to capture the bright lunar surface and the astronauts in their spacesuits. The parallel shadows were an optical illusion caused by the perspective from which the photographs were taken. The early seeds of doubt about the moon landing found fertile ground in the years that followed. Conspiracy theories began to circulate more widely, fueled by books, documentaries, and even fictional portrayals that questioned the authenticity of the event. These works often presented the evidence in a selective and misleading manner, ignoring or downplaying the scientific explanations that debunked the claims. Conspiracy theorist, one of the most influential books in this regard was We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle by William Casing, published in 1976. Casing, a former employee of a company that had worked on the Apollo program, made a range of unsubstantiated claims about NASA's capabilities and the alleged faking of the moon landing. His book, though lacking in credible evidence, resonated with some readers who were already predisposed to distrust the government, adding to the growing chorus of doubt were documentaries like A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon by filmmaker Bart Sibrel. Sibrel's film presented a collection of out-of-context footage and dubious claims, further bolstering the belief that the moon landing had been faked. Even fictional portrayals, such as the 1978 film Capricorn 1, which depicted a staged mission to Mars, contributed to the public's fascination with the idea of a government conspiracy surrounding space exploration.
Given the overwhelming scientific evidence supporting the authenticity of the moon landing, why do some people continue to believe that it was a hoax?
The answer lies in a complex interplay of factors, including a distrust of authority, scientific illiteracy, and the psychological appeal of conspiracy theories.
For some, the moon landing hoax theory feeds into a broader skepticism of government and institutions.
This distrust is often rooted in historical events, such as the Watergate scandal or the Vietnam War, where the government was found to have misled the public.
In the wake of such events, any extraordinary claim made by the government, even one as monumental as the moon landing, can be met with suspicion.
Furthermore, a lack of scientific understanding can contribute to the belief in conspiracy theories.
Many people simply do not have the scientific background to critically evaluate the claims made by hoax proponents.
They may misinterpret photographic evidence, misunderstand basic physics concepts, or fail to grasp the sheer complexity of faking a moon landing.
Beyond these factors, there is a certain psychological allure to conspiracy theories.
They offer a sense of order and control in a chaotic world.
By believing in a grand conspiracy, individuals can feel as if they are privy to secret knowledge that most people are unaware of.
This can be an empowering feeling, even if the conspiracy itself is based on flawed logic and misinformation.
Section 6. Debunking the myths. A scientific look at the evidence. Despite the persistence of moon landing conspiracy theories, the scientific evidence overwhelmingly supports the fact that the Apollo missions did indeed land humans on the moon. Let's address some of the most common claims made by hoax proponents and provide the scientific explanations that debunk them.
The waving flag. As mentioned earlier, the American flag planted on the moon appears to wave in photographs, despite the lack of wind on the lunar surface. This is because the flag was mounted to a telescopic pole with a horizontal crossbar to ensure that it would fly proudly. The ripples in the fabric, which create the illusion of waving, are simply due to the flag being folded up during storage and transport. Missing stars. Another common claim is that the photographs taken on the moon show no stars in the background. This is attributed to the fact that the lunar surface and the astronauts' white spacesuits were brightly lit by the sun. To prevent overexposure, the camera's aperture was set to a narrow opening and the shutter speed was fast. These settings would not have allowed enough light from the faint stars to be captured on film. Parallel shadows. Some hoax proponents point to the parallel shadows cast by objects on the lunar surface as evidence that the photographs were taken on a soundstage with artificial lighting. However, this is simply an illusion caused by perspective. When parallel lines, such as shadows cast by the sun, are viewed from a distance, they appear to converge toward a vanishing point on the horizon. This is a basic principle of perspective that applies whether you are on Earth or the moon.
Section 7. The impossibility of faking it, logistics, technology, and global secrecy. Beyond debunking individual claims, it is important to consider the sheer logistical impossibility of faking the moon landing. The Apollo program involved hundreds of thousands of people working across numerous government agencies, private contractors, and research institutions to successfully pull off a hoax of this magnitude would have required an unprecedented level of coordination, secrecy, and deception.
Consider the technology involved. The Saturn V rocket, which launched the Apollo missions into space, remains the most powerful rocket ever built. It was a marvel of engineering, requiring years of research and development. To suggest that this technology did not exist or was somehow faked strains credulity. Furthermore, the Apollo missions were tracked by independent observatories and tracking stations around the world, including those operated by nations that were not allied with the United States. If the moon landing had been faked, it is highly unlikely that all of these independent observers would have been complicit in the deception or unable to detect the hoax. The sheer number of people involved in the Apollo program also makes a conspiracy of this scale highly improbable. It would have taken thousands of individuals to create the fake sets, fabricate the evidence, and maintain secrecy. The risk of leaks, whistleblowers, or accidental disclosures would have been astronomically high.
Section 8. The Soviets were watching. Independent verification from a rival superpower. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence against the moon landing hoax theory comes from an unlikely source, the Soviet Union. At the height of the Cold War, the Soviets were deeply invested in discrediting the United States and exposing any attempts at deception. They had their own sophisticated space program and were closely monitoring the Apollo missions.
If the moon landing had been faked, the Soviets would have been the first to know. They had the technological capabilities to track the Apollo spacecraft, monitor radio communications, and analyze the data transmitted back to Earth. Exposing a US hoax would have been a major propaganda victory for the Soviets. Yet they never publicly questioned the authenticity of the moon landing. In fact, Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev congratulated President Richard Nixon on the success of the Apollo 11 mission. This tacit acknowledgement from their Cold War rivals speaks volumes about the legitimacy of the moon landing. It is highly unlikely that the Soviets, with their own spacefaring ambitions and their vested interest in exposing US propaganda, would have remained silent if they had any doubts about the moon landing.
Section 9. The enduring legacy of the moon landing and the importance of critical thinking. More than 5 decades after Neil Armstrong took his one small step on the lunar surface, the moon landing remains one of humanity's greatest achievements. It is a testament to our collective ingenuity, our spirit of exploration, and our boundless capacity for scientific and technological advancement.
While it is important to acknowledge and address the concerns of those who doubt the authenticity of the moon landing, it is equally important to rely on evidence-based reasoning and critical thinking. The scientific evidence overwhelmingly supports the fact that the Apollo missions did indeed land humans on the moon. To claim otherwise is to ignore a vast body of evidence, including photographic and video recordings, lunar samples, and independent verification from multiple nations.
The persistence of moon landing conspiracy theories serves as a reminder of the importance of scientific literacy and critical thinking skills. In an age of misinformation and digital echo chambers, it is more important than ever to be able to evaluate information critically, identify bias, and discern fact from fiction. By embracing scientific inquiry, fostering a healthy skepticism, and grounding our beliefs in evidence, we can better navigate the complexities of the world around us and appreciate the true wonders of human achievement.